Hey everybody, it's Alec here, and welcome to the next episode of the Smashing Brands podcast. Today I have a special guest. I have David. Thanks for being here, David.
It's great to be here, Alec.
So, one of the first questions I always like to ask is, how do you spend your time on planet Earth?
Oh, I have a lot of fun on planet Earth, so I do a lot of good things. I'm obviously CEO of a digital agency, Nowspeed, so I spend a lot of time trying to help our clients win in the marketplace. That's a lot of fun. We've got about 25 people on staff, and we build websites and do SEO and digital advertising, social media, all of those kinds of things. But I'm also very passionate about a couple of fun sports. I love skiing. I love sailing. Um, and I love hiking. Those are probably my three most passionate activities. So that's a lot of fun. And I've got four kids, so that definitely keeps me
Wow,
busy. Yeah.
you sound like a very busy person. So, yeah, you're one of the digital marketing pioneers, aren't you?
Yeah, I've been doing it for a long time. So I started my first company in 1994, the kind of the beginning of the commercial internet. We started building websites in the 90s. When we were building them on Notepad, and you needed software engineers to do a lot of the stuff, that today is all prepackaged software and,
Yeah.
hosted services. So it's changed dramatically, but I've kind of seen a lot of change over that period of time.
Oh, absolutely. We'll probably dive into that. But what's been like what was your motivation for, starting a company? And then secondly, why marketing specifically?
Started my first company back in the 90s because really I wanted to control my own destiny. I was in sales, I was in computer sales for a long time, and I realized that kind of being, making other people wealthy and kind of just going through the corporate grind was just
Yeah.
not for me. And so I learned a lot. I'm grateful for that experience, but I really wanted to control my own destiny and take charge of my life. And I realized that owning the company was going to allow me to do that. And I really enjoyed the creativity and the freedom that that gave me to win and lose, make my own decisions, control my own destiny a little bit. And so, I took a course on business planning as I was in a master's program, wrote a business plan, and then launched the business and pivoted immediately to find out what people would actually pay us to do, and
Yeah.
then kept growing from there.
Yeah. So how was that like? So, well, first of all, who was your first client?
My first client was a company called, I believe it was Data Alliance. No, maybe. It was a trade show actually, and they were trying to put
Mhm.
their trade shows on the internet, and they had these brochures, and so they would send us the PDFs, the brochures, and we would have to turn them into websites of the trade show. And that was a great client. We worked for them for years, and it really gave us the revenue to kind of get off the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. So was that basically how you got started? Was doing websites for people? Was that like the main thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the 90s, we were building websites, and we grew that company from zero to about 50 people in 4 years. So that was a pretty successful run. And then I sold that company to CSC, which was the third largest systems integrator in the world at that time. Back in 1998, I was a senior partner there for a while. I did some other things and started this company in 2003. And so started Nowspeed a little more than 20 years ago. And instead of focusing on website design development, Nowspeed's really focused on marketing execution. So we started with email, quickly added pay-per-click and SEO, and then added social media, got back into website design development, and really added all the core services of kind of core digital agencies.
Right. And who did you work with in the beginning of that company? Like who were the types of clients?
So with Nowspeed, our core clients have been pretty consistent. They're, small to mid-size tech companies, a lot of B2B. Probably 60% of our work today is with B2B, and a lot of those are tech. It's really tech and manufacturing. The other 40% is B2C. We work with people in the entertainment industry. We work with people in financial services. We have clients that are in healthcare. So it's a pretty diverse customer base. I know there's a lot of agencies that focus exclusively on one market or another. I know some that only do tech, or some that only do automotive, or some that maybe only do pharmaceutical companies. And I think it's a great strategy for growth. It's never been our strategy. We've always taken a wide, diversified strategy. It probably means slower growth, but each of those industries, if you kind of think about history over the last 20 years, has had its hiccups, right? So last year when
Hmm.
tech had a big hiccup, the agencies that were really doubled down on tech were suffering, right? So they had to lay off,
Yeah.
downsize, they lost clients, and it's tough, an era like when if you're focused on automotive, and there was an era when when COVID hit, nobody was buying cars, or you couldn't get cars, or then automotive marketing takes a hit. So you live by the focus and growth in one industry. It can also hurt when it goes the other way. So we've always taken a pretty wide, diversified approach to that, but we've got some great clients, clients that are in the hundreds of millions of dollars, big companies that love us, and we, continue to spend a lot of money, a lot of their money in advertising, and help them be successful.
Awesome. So let's pretend it's 2003. I'm a B2B tech company. What is the marketing strategy back then?
Well, a lot of things were just starting. Things that we take for granted today are really just starting. So there was a concept of SEO, but it was very, very basic, and you could game the system very easily. So we were
Yeah.
doing some basic SEO. We weren't doing marketing automation. We were doing email marketing. So we would,
Yeah.
write emails and blast them to build out a newsletter or customer list. And the game there was, build up the list, because if you had a great list, email marketing worked great. It was before a lot of the spam filters got sophisticated. People were still accepting email. So email marketing was a lot easier and a lot more effective back in the day. And PPC was really just getting started. So
Yeah.
Google was just getting started. The options were simpler. It was a lot less complicated, a lot of text ads, and it worked. But it works today. So PPC still works. It's evolved massively, and there's so many
Yeah.
more options, but it's still a core part of our strategy.
Yeah. Do you feel like back then in like the early 2000s, like when email was pretty new, people just bought more things and they opened more emails?
There was less spamming, so there was less email going out. So I think, so I don't know the exact stats, but people,
Yeah.
the spam filters were not as sophisticated. So you had to actually go in and process all of your email. And
Hmm.
email often got through. But now people took great pains to unsubscribe. So you had to provide great content that served the user just like you do today. But
Yeah.
it was easier to make email work. And the open rates and the click-through rates were just so much better, like 10 times better, 20 times better than they are today. Because email with spam filters and we're all jaded. I mean, I personally unsubscribe to 100% of every unwanted email in my inbox. Maybe I'm unusual like that, but I'm fanatical about having a clean inbox. Even though we do email marketing, I only want email that I want. So now I take a lot of email. I'm subscribed to a lot of things, but I want those things. But if it's unwanted spam email, I don't want it. And I think most people don't, and they want all that stuff filtered out. So back in the day, the filters weren't as sophisticated and it was easier to get through.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so you were really like, when we talk about starting in 2003, I mean, you were basically in business by the time all the big uh, advertising platforms launched. Like, okay, well, and social media too. So it's like you had LinkedIn that launched in what, 2003, I think.
Yep.
And then you had the rise of Google Ads, which was, I don't know when that was. You probably know what year was that?
Oh, I think that was started, man, before we launched the company, before 2003, I think.
Even
So,
that, even
um,
AdWords?
yeah, I think AdWords was around in 2004, 2003, 2004. Yep.
Uh-huh.
I think, don't exactly remember. The challenge with that is it's all easy to see now in hindsight what the biggest players were and Facebook is obviously super successful, Instagram. But when you're running an agency and making recommendations to clients, and somebody says, "Hey, there's this new thing." Some people are calling it social. What is it again? Social media. Oh, yeah. Should we get into that? I don't know. Well, how much you want to invest in that? You have all these discussions with every new thing that comes out. Is it going to be hot? Is it going to work? Is it, so you're always like evaluating, testing, and then coming up with strategies, and the strategies evolve. So you have to be smart with every one of those evolutions. And, I've seen a lot of change and a lot of new things that come and new things go, and not everything works. So, but a lot of things do work.
How mhm. How weary were you of like Facebook and AdWords and stuff like that, and or social media in general? And how long did it take for you to say, go to your clients to be like, hey, we need to be doing this?
With social media back in 2007, we wanted to be doing it right away. We knew it was going to be big. We knew it was going to be there. But it took a while. Maybe, we were maybe on the slow side, but it took a year or two before we figured out what we could actually do in a service offering to help our clients do marketing with it. So it's one
Yeah.
thing to say, "Oh, there's Facebook out here, and man, I can look at what my friends are sharing. Isn't that cool?" And then it took a while for us to say, wow, what can we actually be doing for clients that they can't be doing for themselves, and turn it into a
Yeah.
service offering, price it, and then sell it and get clients to actually pay us to do that. That took us longer than maybe I would have liked, but it probably took us a year or so before we really made it a core part of what we went out to market with.
Yeah, well, even if you had started your agency in 2009 and 2010, like that would have still given you an advantage because that was like on the rise. So the fact that you already had these things adopted and going, you were still ahead of the curve, I would say, and it shows with how you've been able to grow the company that you have today. So I'm curious, I mean, what do you feel like are the most interesting new either marketing technologies or platforms to advertise on in 2024?
Well, we're looking at a lot of things in terms of advertising budgets. Our clients are still very focused on Google. We're excited about what Bing is doing with some of the AI technologies. That's pretty exciting. So, will Bing become a stronger player against Google? There's, getting back to Google, there's still just so much innovation happening with targeting, remarketing, list-based targeting, display. Google AI, there's just so much innovation continuing to happen on the Google platform that it continues to work really well for our clients. So Google, watching Bing, Facebook and Instagram are still very strong platforms for us. And then we're watching some niche platforms for us. Like we have a client that's super excited about Reddit. We're going to invest in doing some Reddit testing. Yeah, we're pretty platform agnostic. We want to do things that really work for our clients, and work well.
Cool. For B2B, for your B2B clients, do you advertise on Facebook and Instagram?
We do not as much, and it has to be kind of niche oriented content. So
Yeah.
in some ways that's more of a niche kind of content play. And if they can find something interesting, B2B clients are much more likely to focus on LinkedIn. Because it allows you to have much better targeting based on all the
Yeah.
stuff that we tell LinkedIn about ourselves. So for B2B, we almost always include LinkedIn as part of the ad strategy.
Yeah, and you feel that it's worth it even though like the CPM prices are like a lot more expensive?
It always depends, but in general, it
Yeah.
is because the audience is much more targeted. So I can target, CTOs of tech companies with this title, with this educational
Yeah.
background, with this problems, who's in these groups, and that ability to focus your ad spend to exactly who the buyer is makes it pretty unique at scale, because everybody in certain markets, especially in tech, is on LinkedIn. So it's easy to target exactly who you want. Now, the challenge with LinkedIn is that many times people aren't in search mode. You're there because you're looking at
Mhm.
content and you're looking for a job, and then you get this ad and you're
Yeah.
like a little interrupt driven. It still can work, but often people are more in educational mode. So we're finding that upper funnel offers, educational offers, teaching offers kind of work better in that environment. Not to say that you couldn't do lower funnel see a demo, register to buy, free trial, those kind of offers that could work too. But often the upper funnel offers work well on LinkedIn. But we always try to create hypotheses, test all of that. We want to
Right.
make sure that it's all working well.
Yeah, awesome. I like that. So, you said 25 staff members, I assume you do several million dollars a year in revenue. I mean, when you started your company, did you envision it being like this? Or what were sort of the things that you thought things could turn into versus the reality?
Oh, I thought it would be easier. So I thought, when you start a company, so I actually teach a course on business planning now at Boston College.
Oh,
And
nice.
so, so it's kind of teaching like, strategy, business model, put together your plan. And it's so easy on a spreadsheet to say, oh, we'll start with one person and then we're going to grow one every month. And so in 3 years, we're going to have 1,000 people, right? And so
Yeah.
it's so easy to model and think it's always easier. The thing you don't
Right.
appreciate when you're growing a company is that there's competition, there's people challenges, there's client churns, there's quality, there's technology change. There's all these headwinds that make it hard to grow a company. So yeah, I thought I'd be 5,000 people by now, and no, so but it's fine. It's more, we have a great business, doing great work for a lot of clients, and I'm happy with that. But yeah, I thought it was going to be easier than it is.
Is that what you want though? I mean, because I know some people some people are just like they're happy at the sweet spot of let's say 30 employees, whatever. And then there's other people that are maybe like a little bit more boutique. And then there's, like the people that want to build the big agencies, right? There's plenty of them, right? So do you still, is it still an aspiration to continue to grow your business and hire more and more and more people? Or do you feel like, hey, I'm kind of at the sweet spot where I'm making the money that I want to do, I'm working with the types of clients that I want, I'm still having that work-life balance?
So, at 25 people, we have the luxury of having a management team that does most of the execution and manages all the work, almost all the work with clients. So that kind
Mhm.
of frees me to think of the future, think of strategy, think of direction where we want to go. So yes, I would like
Yeah.
to grow the company. Um, I believe that the company kind of has a little bit of a natural growth rate based on the amount of capital and the amount of effort that we want to put into it. And so if you said, "Hey, Dave, here's, $100 million, can you grow to X?" It's hard to say, how fast you'd be able to grow that. I don't know. I haven't been able to break the growth code to go to thousands, so I'm probably the wrong person to ask how far fast we're going to grow in the future. But I do think it's fine to have. I do want to grow the agency, continue to grow the agency, because I believe that I really want to make a difference in the lives of as many employees and the difference in the lives of many clients as possible. So that's part of what drives me.
Do you have a number? Like in 5 years, I want to be doing this much in revenue or have this many employees.
I don't. No, it's more of a natural growth rate.
Cool. And as far as growing, like what have you guys done to get clients and grow your own business?
I've evolved my thinking quite a bit on that in the last 20 years. So I used to focus on
Mhm.
one or two things. So we would do, like we do on our own pay-per-click advertising, or we just focus on referrals. And now my philosophy is to do it all. So we invest a lot in content. So we're putting a lot of content out. We're doing probably half a dozen blog articles. We're doing deep guides every month, on different topics. We have a lot of content. So we're doing our kind of eating our own dog food and SEO. We're spending money in advertising, that very niche advertising, to focus on driving more leads through Google and through LinkedIn. We have a podcast program, so that where I reach out
Mhm.
individually to fractional CMOs and invite them, serve them by giving them exposure on the podcast.
Nice.
And then we do our own email marketing to our list of CMOs and other marketers, and we do a whole referral program. So what I'm seeing right now is, if you ask me what works, it all works. It all works at different times to different degrees, but we have to invest in all of it to continue to get the leads we need to grow the business.
Interesting. So you target CMOs more than founders? Is that right? Because the CMOs are more likely to be working with bigger companies
Yeah,
and
CMOs.
assist.
Yeah,
Hmm.
in tech, you can have a CMO at a 20-person company, but we find that we work well when there's some, doesn't have to be a CMO title, but there's some professional marketer who gets it. So the startup founder, while I have a lot of respect for them, they often need a marketing strategist like a CMO to really appreciate what we're doing, or else they're going to want to hire us as an agency and say, Dave, if I give you $50,000, you're going to produce this many sales, right? I said, well, there's a couple of steps between here and there, right? Got to create
Yeah.
campaigns. We don't know which campaigns are going to work. We don't know which landing page. We don't know which offers. We don't know how we're going to convert to leads, marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads. We don't know what your close rate's going to be. There's a lot of steps here, and unless there's a marketing person, senior marketing person on staff that
Hmm.
understands all that, often what happens is that founder gets disappointed. They're like, I hired you to revolutionize my business, to take me from zero to a million, $100 million in revenue, and you failed. And I was going to spend that $10,000 somewhere else. I didn't get my 100 million. So what's the deal? I think you guys I would have thought that you guys were a real agency. And so we need people who understand how marketing works. Marketing is at the same time ridiculously easy, right? It's ridiculously easy to write an email, send it. It's ridiculously easy to open an ad account and put an ad on Google. It's ridiculously easy to create a piece of content and put it on a website. But it's
Yeah.
really hard to make all of that work together to produce a business outcome. And
Yeah.
we put all those pieces together and manage all the complexity. And so if you have a CEO founder who doesn't understand all that, they're going to hire an agency, they're going to fire them in 6 months, they're going to churn through agencies, and that's super
Hmm.
frustrating. So we love professional marketers who understand the investment required and the steps and the collaboration and the level of trust and respect that you have to have with an agency and with other team members over a long period of time to make it work. And and so that's our game plan.
Okay, cool. So with all of your own marketing strategies that you use for your own business, you're more targeting CMOs specifically. Is that what you meant by like more niche advertising?
You mean for our advertising? So
Yeah, because you talk
the
about like niche campaigns. Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so for our advertising for Nowspeed, we run campaigns to promote. For one campaign is on a free audit. So we have a very detailed SEO audit and a PPC audit that really adds a lot of value to a company. It's like
Hmm.
a 15-step program. We spend a lot of time on it. And we advertise that for qualified companies. Now we don't want everybody to say, hey, I got this ice cream stand. Can you do a free audit for me? My marketing budget's well over $12. This would be awesome. So, we don't want that. We want companies who are struggling, hey, I got a budget of $10,000 a month. I've been working this internally. We can't crack
Yeah.
the code. What's going on here? We want those kind of companies, like spending $100,000 a month. I got a real problem. We want those kind of companies. So we want to, focus on our ad budget on letting those people know that we have this amazing audit that can help them crack the code.
Hmm. And where can they find that audit or to sign up for that audit?
So it's on our website. If you go to our website, any of our services, all of our service pages have a free audit offer there with a landing page. We're also running ads, on Google about that. We feature it in our email newsletter that goes out every week. We profile it in every one of our podcast emails that goes out. So lots of opportunities to do that. So if I could wave a
Cool.
magic wand and be number one on Google organic for PPC free audit. That would be nice to get free traffic. But we do a lot of SEO content for that. But there's probably, if I had to search right now, there's probably 10 million pages with that phrase on it that Google's indexing. So it'd be nice to be number one. But in the meantime, we're going to keep doing, email and paid search in order to get visibility there, traffic.
Well, if you got that 100 million, right, then you can maybe have
Yeah,
enough
exactly. Well, that's the thing. Yes.
to.
Yeah, if you get the $100 million investment, then you could. The challenge with that, the investment side is then it dilutes the ownership of me and the other, leaders of the company. And so
Of
even if I
course.
even if I was offered that, would I really take it? Probably not. Actually, I would just sell if I
Well,
got the 100 million.
right. But let's say hypothetically you did find $100 million somehow. How would you do that to get the rank number one for SEO on it or PPC on it? Like, what would that strategy be if you had like unlimited capital? Like, what would that look like?
Well, with SEO, what you have to do is be better than all the other content in Google's eyes on the internet,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So you have to build the ultimate PPC audit guide, and so that it has more content in better domain authority pages with more links to it than anybody else. So yeah, you would invest heavily in content and inbound links in order to make that happen. So, you know, and the investment is proportional to the amount of competition on those pages. So it's hard. There's 100,000 agencies like mine in the world, maybe more. So you're competing with a lot of companies who have that same goal, who are all putting out content on that same subject. So it's challenging.
Maybe you just have to buy all the agencies with 100 million.
Well, sure, yeah, maybe that's an easier thing to do. So yeah.
That's all
Or
right. Enough of
maybe you just buy a yacht and sail away and that
that works
works
too.
too, yeah.
So, you've been a founder for a long time. I mean, like, what do you feel like are some of the huge lessons that you've learned over the past few years on how to be a better leader and run a successful company?
Well, I've learned that the CEO job is really based on just a few things. So rather than trying to do everything and control everything and manage everything and serve every client, what I've learned is the CEO job is really about a couple things. It's one, it's a strategy. Got to figure out like what are we doing and how do we make money. So that's my job. So I got to own that, right? So we got to figure out where we're going. So as all these new things come about, like social media comes in, and AI is coming in, and the metaverse is coming in, and we have new advertising platforms. Where do we go to make money and be the best in the world at? So that's the strategy piece that I have to focus on. The other one is people. I've got to be able to choose the next level of leadership. So I've got to choose who are the directors in my company who can actually deliver services, sell, do accounting. I've got to make sure that I've got that right next level of leadership. And then I've got to make sure those people are coached and equipped and trusted to hire their teams. So that's my job. So my job is to hire their teams for them, hire and fire. My job is to make sure I've got the right team in place. And then another part of my job is really to make sure that I've got the right metrics in place so I can make sure the business is going in the right direction and hold people accountable. So, what
Hmm.
KPIs are we measuring? When we've got a sales team, what are the goals? What are the quotas? Are we on track or off track? And so, in every area of the business, I spend a lot of my time really going through those metrics with people and making sure on track. So there's a lot of other things too, but I think strategy, leadership, and then KPIs and metrics. So I've learned to focus on those things. In the early days, I spent a lot more time selling, delivering services, worrying about every client. I try to let my team worry about the clients and make and sell and make sure that I'm focused on, what really matters.
Yeah, I love that answer. It's obvious that you have a high level of self-awareness. Have you invested in like coaching or mentorship or that kind of stuff to help you with all these things?
I've been part of a group called the Entrepreneurs Organization for the last 15 years, and that's been
Yeah,
super helpful. So I don't know if you know EO, but
of course.
there's thousands of members worldwide. So I've gone to conferences, and but one of the most impactful things I've done is joined a small group called a forum, and I meet with other business leaders for confidential 3-hour meeting every month. Go away for a couple of retreats a year, and so
Nice.
being with those other entrepreneurs and founders has really given me a lot of perspective, knowledge, and emotional fortitude to make it through. So that's the other piece. That's it. So you can be there's a technical knowledge of being a CEO, but there's also the emotional intelligence to keep your head in the game. And I think that is maybe the more difficult thing for a lot of founders. So you got to be able to do both.
Yeah. So what do you feel like was like the what was the last time you had a pretty difficult time in your business and how did you overcome it?
I have difficult times in my business all the time. So we,
Yeah.
have an key employee that leaves, or we have a key client that leaves. Those are the two um, events that are always hard for me. So, when a key
Yeah.
employee leaves, you have a personal relationship, you want to wish them well, but you realize they're leaving a hole, clients are impacted. So there's always turmoil. So we do a lot to try to retain employees and try to keep them, happy, compensate them well, all of those things. But it's always hard. So whenever, a key person leaves, we're always rethinking compensation, communications, mentorship, all of those things around us, and want to make sure that we're on top of it. You can't control it forever, but that's a key thing. And then when a key client leaves, you're doing the same thing. We have a whole process of
Mhm.
tracking why clients leave. We just looked at
Yeah.
why clients left in 2023. And we basically want to problem solve down to why did they leave because we did a bad job. We screwed up. We
Hmm.
couldn't hit their mark. There's a management change. We became politically untenable. They wanted to insource. We're too expensive. There's all these reasons that people change. So we try to work the problem and try to solve it. You can't always solve it, but we try to work through those issues. So for me, it's healthiest when you have one of those two things happen, try to go into problem solving and try to figure out how to be better, um, you know, through that
Yeah.
through that challenge.
If you were to, have a conversation with the David that was just starting his company, what would you tell him that would have helped him grow faster and get out of his way more?
I would have said, um, I would have probably said, go after better clients sooner instead of just taking any client that came along. And I probably would have said, hire better people, pay more, hire better people sooner. Because it took a long time before when you're running a small business that has to be profitable, you're always balancing, well, how it's payroll against revenue, and you're kind of always balancing that. But I think if I
Yeah.
had invested in better people sooner, and now we have an amazing team. I think we pay really well, and hopefully it's a good place. You never know, for sure. But I would probably had a better, stronger team sooner that would have helped me retain more clients and grow faster. So hindsight's always 2020,
Yeah.
but I think those strategies that I have now would have served me better back then.
Yeah, I think this is something a lot of agency owners struggle with, which is like, how can I balance like wanting to have revenue in the door and not just take any client, but that little bit of delayed gratification, right? Being like, okay, maybe I won't just accept this just because it's money. I'm in a mastermind right now. It's more so for coaches and consultants, but he's like, yeah, in the beginning we just want to, get paid from anybody that, has a credit card in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
That's
One
where
of the
it
things
starts. Right?
And one of the things we did well early that I'm happy we did was really created a standard service offering. And that takes a
Hmm.
lot of service employees, especially in consulting, a long time to figure out where you say, yeah, you will do anything for any client that's willing to pay you, just as long as but what we did is we created a standard service offering and defined that really well. So with checklists and process. So we're like, we're able to say, here's what a PPC management engagement is. Here's what an SEO management engagement is. Here's what a
Yeah.
website is. So the the clearer we are on that, the client knows what they're buying. We know what we're delivering. It's easier to maintain quality. All of that is is super helpful. So that's something that I think
I like that.
early entrepreneurs, because they're so smart and they're so flexible, the early CEOs feel like, well, we don't need all that process because I just know what to do. And that only takes you so far. When you think like that, you won't be more than 4 or 5 people because you have to touch everything. You have to create systems and process to go beyond you doing everything. And that's an important lesson for clients. And so when you see entrepreneurs, especially in agencies, when people don't have more than 5, 6, 7 employees, you know that that's what the CEO is struggling with. They can't let go.
Interesting. Yeah, and I really like the idea of like, okay, we're flexible with the types of clients that we take on in the beginning, but we're still going to have this service offering and we're not going to like deter away from that. So if it's like, hey, we do these ad campaigns for you, it's a 3 month program to start, blah, blah, blah. We might be flexible with who we work with, but we're not going to go out of our way and say, oh, well, this person can only pay me for a month. Like, not going to do that. Right. So it's like that flexibility. This person might not be totally ideal, but they're willing to follow our process.
Exactly. And you
So,
have standard systems and process to deliver consistent quality. So in our world,
yeah.
we would work with a financial services company as much as a tech company, as much as a biotech company. We have clients in all those areas right now. But they're all buying the same thing. They're all buying a PPC engagement or an SEO engagement or a website or content marketing or
Uh,
social media. They're all kind of buying a service that we're really good at delivering with high quality people repeatedly. And we adapt to their world and their industry, and we learn it pretty fast. But we're doing the same thing over and over again.
awesome. Well, David, I have one more question for you. And it's what's been, what do you feel like was the most difficult time in your life that you went through that ended up being the greatest blessing or thing that happened to you?
Oh, so many things. Man, the things that difficult time that ended up being the greatest blessing. When I was running my first company, I had a partner who was a significant owner in the company. And
Hmm.
one day he came to me, this is making a long story very short,
Hmm.
with the rest of my senior management team and said, we're all quitting and starting a competing firm. And that was like just a shot to the heart.
Yeah.
And I had to we kind of separated, and then I had to rally and kind of put the company together and survive and elevate new leadership and restructure the whole company. And that was an exciting time, but we survived, and that kind of set us up to sell the company about a year later. And so that was actually a good event, a good outcome
Yeah.
later, but it was extremely difficult at the time. We could have gone out of business. So
Yeah.
the bad thing that he did, but I survived and I learned and I grew through it. And so, am
Life.
I resentful 20 years later? Well, maybe a little, but I'm a
Yeah.
better person for it.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's a great story. Well, David, where can the people that are watching this follow you or connect with you?
Well, the best place is on LinkedIn. So just search for David Reske on LinkedIn. Also on our website at nowspeed.com. It's easy to find me in both places.
Awesome. Well, David, thanks again for being on the show. This was a great conversation, and hopefully, a lot of people can take away a lot of valuable insights from it.
Great. Thanks, Alec. I really enjoyed the conversation.